So, we carry with us, as modern, post Enlightenment rationalist, 21st century individuals, a certain series of expectations from anything that we read: scientific accuracy, chronology, detailed journalistic accounts, historic facts that are perfectly accounted for based on our current understanding and discoveries about the past. Things which appeal to the moral and social sensibilities of our time, even though we know it's relative, we're, of course, correct about those things. Precise numbers and dating, and insight into the material world. Along comes this anthology of ancient texts that spans thousands of years and dozens of different authors, and well, we look through it. We don't see any of that. This doesn't accommodate me and my expectations. And so we check it out. What would you even have without those things? Narrative, plot, character development, meaning, purpose, beauty, truth. Yeah, something like truth, unlike facts, which are inherently untrue. What? 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 Well, let me tell you a little story. I took a creative writing class because I thought I might enjoy journalism, and so I was taking classes that would help, or part of the curriculum for that. It struck me when the professor walked in, and basically, first thing he said was, "Welcome to Lying 101." It's like, lying. That's what made me curious. Why am I taking this course if I'm interested in being a journalist? But surely there are different methods, right? Facts are facts. You just record them. But then I got to thinking, what actually is journalism? What is a fact? Because when you approach something that took place, you are necessarily interpreting it through your lens. You are diminishing things which you don't see as important and accentuating the things that you do perceive as being important. A journalistic account, say you open up the newspaper and you read an article about something that happened. Now, certainly the thing happened, but is a fact true? Not exactly, because it's only true within the context of its existence. It's only true if you take into account all things. Otherwise, it is in some way a deception. It is a subjective expression of something that may, in fact, have literally taken place and be, in that sense, a true thing. But the symbol of the thing, the sentence, is not the thing itself, and it can never be that. When I go to, let's say, the scene of an accident and I record what took place, even if I was there when it happened, again, I'm necessarily leaving out the parts that I'm not aware of. I'm leaving out the parts that I don't view as important. And I'm creating a narrative. And that's what we do with facts. So an individual fact, it can never express an entirety of a truth. Like, for example, this shirt. It's a pink shirt. Of course. Well, not exactly. It's actually a red and white shirt. If you look very closely, There are no pink threads. There are only white and red threads. It appears to be, especially on camera, to be a uniform color, but that's not the case. Even if you call the red pink because it is somewhat light, it's certainly not this light. So if I say it's a pink shirt, it appears to be. I could certainly categorize it as that, but that's not exactly what it is it? So maybe I mean to say that things that we perceive to be facts aren't necessarily true, although I suspect that most, if not all, facts are, in some sense, untrue, just as they are true. And that completely shifted my thinking about what do I trust? It's impossible to convey the entirety of a reality because it's being filtered through our subjective understanding of that reality. And then how far do you take that? So there's the rub. How precise does it have to be for it to be true? And then you have the problem of meaning because, well, I'm encoding what I mean or what I think I mean into language, which then you have to decode. And there might be some problems there. You might not understand the words that I'm using in the same way that I understand them. And that's right now. So you can only imagine trying to approach an ancient text with a completely different language that happened to have died at some point, and with all of their idioms and cultural differences and trying to decode all of that. Now, thankfully, we've had basically throughout time a translation of sorts that we could use. They translated it to Greek, that helped a lot, and you know, that's not nothing. But it is a problem, and it ties into the problem of instruction that Holy Kool-Aid discussed, and didn't really plan on talking about this right after, but it is related. The important bits are there. There might be a few details, oh, a scribal error here, a mistranslation there, but the core of the message is it's there. And it's always been about the core of the message. The individual facts, as I said, don't add up to a truth in and of themselves, individually or even as a collective, because they have to be interpreted. They have to mean something. There is no meaning in fact, but truth is meaning. And there's the dilemma for the rationalist, is that they open the Bible and they expect to find here here's the meaning that I expect to find. Here is the morality. Here is the story. Here is the details that I expect to find. How is that rational? How is what you expect to find rational? Well, because I'm rational, clearly. But you're not using rationality in this. You're using a language and a structure of thought that is embedded in Judeo-Christian ethics and morality against the Judeo-Christian scriptures. Anyway, as another example, so while an account of something necessarily leaves out a number of facts, an infinite number of facts, actually, you're also compressing things and rearranging things. Typically, you try to keep them in chronological order when you're like giving an account that you expect someone to understand the details of an event based upon. But when you're just relaying something or telling a story, you might say, I ate breakfast and then I went to work. This or that thing happened. Oh, and also I went to the coffee shop and got a drink. It's like, well, that drink, that might have been between you eating breakfast and going to work, or it could have been the work and the story that you're relating, or it could have been later on. It's like there's no chronology there. And then you didn't just eat breakfast and then go to work. Like there were like you had to get your keys, and there were like all these like minor details that occurred in between those two things. So you're compressing the story into a narrative because you can't relate all details. It would become absurd. And all of this relates back to the idea of attention. What are we able to attend to? And so we need a story to be compressed. We need it to make sense, not logically, but subjectively. Another way to say that would be not only details about particular instances, but instances themselves, so events. You have to compress the story into a narrative in order for it to make sense. You ever talk to somebody and they just ramble on and they're like telling you all these details, like, okay, what do I need to know to understand the story that you're trying to tell me? It gets rather annoying. If you work in customer service, you experience that, right? The customer comes up to you and they're upset and they're like, I got this thing and this or that, the other, and my mom was doing this. And I was like, okay, I don't even know what the problem is yet. Like, how many of these details are actually important to the story that you're conveying? So it's like you have to know the end before you can even understand what's leading up to that. Just problems with attention because we understand things in a linear fashion. The Bible's not linear, and it's not really too concerned with material reality. So when you come to it and you expect, well, I want to know about genetics or galaxies, that would prove to me that this is divine. Like, I'm sorry that it doesn't meet your expectations. Maybe your expectations are wrong. So, what does it mean? What does it contain if it doesn't contain facts that explain material reality to us? Well, I've listed some things, but it might help to look at examples. So, where to begin but the beginning? Genesis chapter 1. I expect this video is probably getting long, even after I trim it down. So maybe tomorrow we'll look at that.